This one is from the LGBT resource group at the AARP. Any one of us can encounter a variety of challenges as we grow older: access to affordable health care, financial security, maintaining independence. However, for the LGBT community, the services and outlets available to older adults to help with those challenges are not always welcoming or understanding of LGBT people. Question: what are you doing to improve city services so that they specifically target or are culturally sensitive to and inclusive of the 50-plus LGBT population?
Another lengthy question on this. We've had discussions. We have a new director of our Office of Aging Services, Dr. John Thompson, who I'm very excited about his leadership there. And one of the issues that we've talked about is the reality that we have a population that is growing older who may be HIV positive or have full-blown AIDS, and that they have to take the lead on being sure that we are responding with sensitivity to those who may be, however we define aging these days. I always define aging as 1 year older than what I am. It's a moving target.
I think we all do.
Yeah. But yeah, the responsibility for that would not be vested totally in any one place, but the leadership will have to come from our Office of Aging Services. Now, we know that that's an issue. I've had discussions on this as long ago as 7 to 8 years ago with some of our folks in the Department of Health who recognized that the vulnerability was expanding by age.
Okay. So from elder concerns to youth concerns, this is from Adam Frankel, a sophomore at George Washington, who is the Diversity Affairs Chair for the student.
A great university.
The LGBT student group there, Allied in Pride. He writes, in this position I have introduced and am lobbying the university administration to enact a policy to install permanent condom dispensers in all on-campus residence halls. Our efforts are designed to increase prevention and raise awareness about the alarmingly high rates of HIV. I am fully aware and appreciative of your recent establishment of the Mayor's Commission on HIV/AIDS, but I want to know what can be done to further combat extremely high rates through aiding alike community initiatives. Specifically, what can your administration do to assist our efforts at GW and to encourage similar practices of condom distribution throughout the city and at other universities?
You know I'm in trouble with the moderator doesn't understand the question, right?
We have long-winded readers.
I think, in this specific instance, to the extent you want me to be specific, I'd be happy to talk to President Knapp to encourage his support for this. But I think one of the ways in which we can proliferate this kind of information, this kind of discussion, for example, with our university presidents, we have a consortium of university presidents, and I think that the advocacy needs to start to reach into those groups. Oftentimes advocacy, and I've been in an advocacy position, at one point on behalf of people with disabilities, and another, life on behalf of people, on young people. But I think we have to reach into some of those areas where we haven't seen advocacy reach so readily. In this instance, I would say, why not start to reach out to the consortium of universities? They meet, I think, on a monthly basis. I'm sure that they would be happy to have somebody come and talk about this issue and present ways in which universities can work more effectively in this regard. And I use that only as an illustration. As advocacy continues, why not start to define more broadly some of the target groups, and let's work on those groups. In fact, I'm sorry that Jeff is only one person, but I volunteer him to help define, some of those groups that we haven't reached so effectively in the past.
Okay, another marriage question. In the event that Congress forces the city to place its same-sex marriage law on the ballot to allow voters to decide whether to keep it or repeal it, would you personally campaign to retain the law? What do you think the outcome would be if DC voters got to decide the issue, and what would be the impact on the city of a possible acrimonious campaign?
Well, I would personally campaign. I voted for it, and I stand behind it fully. So I'd absolutely, work hard to make sure that our law wasn't overturned. And I believe our human rights law places us in a position of not having to do that. This is part of the discussion that we had when this law was proposed in the first place, that we weren't going to be vulnerable to that kind of thing. And I think the courts have ruled several times to say that we're not vulnerable to that. So I stand where we are at this stage, and that is the courts have ruled, and let's move on.
Okay. DC's health learning standards passed by the state board in 2007 include providing all district youth with information about sexual orientation, gender identity, various types of family structures, and of course, information about how to protect yourself from HIV pregnancy. The city does not currently measure health education as the same way that we measure reading, writing, and math. The Healthy Schools Act currently has an unfunded mandate to begin to assess health education on par with other subjects. Is your administration committed to ensuring that all students get high-quality health education by paying for that assessment?
I mean, the city paying for it?
Yes.
Well, I voted for the Healthy Schools Act, first of all, and I think we recognized that at the time we were going to be challenged to be able to get the resources to make it fully operational. But in voting for it is also a commitment, to be able to do that. And I look forward to being able to propose in future budgets as financial times get better, support that would include support for health education. There was a time when we had a more robust health education program than we have now. Because I'm a product of the DC Public Schools, and I know that to be the case. And, that was a long time ago, but frankly, some of the information that was provided to us then was, was pretty cutting edge in terms of health education. And it was information we got about risky behaviors, it was information we got about STDs, it was information we got about, how to protect, safeguard ourselves against sexually transmitted diseases that probably was the most effective way at the time to be able to transmit it. I simply say that to say that continues to be an effective avenue, and I support being able to make those investments to ensure we have a more robust health education program than we have now.
Okay. We have some time left, and so we're going to do this in an orderly way. People, if you have questions you'd like to ask directly, raise your hand. I will call on you, ask a question, don't make a speech, and we'll get through as many as we can, right here in the front row.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Joseph Reed, Senior Political Science Major, AFM Studies minor from Howard University by way of Jamaica, New York. My question is, what are your views and what are your plans to deal with the epidemic of homelessness among LGBT youth in the district?
Well, homelessness is at a very high level, we know. Some of that is as a result of the recessionary economy that we've been in. We've had, efforts to try to, Housing First program. What you may not know is, what my job was before I became a council member?
No, sir.
I was the executive director of Covenant House, which is an organization that serves homeless youth. And we created a number of programs. We started from nothing, basically. And we created the Crisis Center and transitional living programs for young people. Education programs, because so many of them had dropped out of school and had limited educational skills. And then thirdly, vocational training programs to try to get them job ready. So my approach would be fundamentally to stay with those three areas and trying to invest in the organizations that do that work. We know the Latin American Youth Center, we know Sasha Bruce, we know Covenant House, and we know other organizations like Smile, great advocacy organizations, Metro Teenage, that help to support young people who may need special kind of support. So I'm not sure we need a whole lot of new ideas on that. I think we need to implement what we know.
David, Mayor Gray, my name is Ed Grandis.
Yes, sir.
Ward 2. I want to compliment you on the appointment of Jeffrey. We look forward to his leadership. I just wanted to explore with you that there is a limitation still with the same-sex marriage issue. We've talked about this before. My partner, we got married almost 3 years ago in California. He had a Maryland ID, and when he came into the city to live together after our marriage, we went to DMV, and he was denied. And we believe that the regulations that DMV have are way beyond the requirements of the DC statute. And we are exploring this right now, and we'd like you to have your policy people look at that and try to help out in situations so that married spouses can transition to state legal IDs for DC.
If you would do this, Ed, so we leave with some direction on this, if you could get, your views, what analysis you've already conducted, get it to Jeff, who will then get it to Janine Jackson, who is the head of our Office of Policy and Legislative Affairs. We'll see what we can do to move it forward.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, right there.
I don't have a question, but good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
I'd like to say on behalf of the DC GLBT Arts Consortium, we represent about 11 arts organizations here in the city. We'd like to thank you for working with the council to strike down the 6% ticket tax. We not only appreciate it from a business perspective, but as avid arts participants, we certainly don't want to pay that additional monies either. So thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments. As you know, this is a very, very tough budget
Yes.
for us, probably the toughest in recent memory. We had a $322 million deficit. We tried to close the deficit with $187 million of cuts, $122 million of revenue enhancements. And the ticket tax, of course, was one of those. There were things in there, to be quite honest with you, that I really didn't want to do myself. I told my budget director one day, Eric Boulay, who some of you may know, is absolutely fantastic. And there were days when Eric would come in my office and I would just tell him to get out. He would do the classic, the messenger, pay the price. And the reason for that was some of the proposals that were on the table, and that was one of them. And of course, in the course of the deliberations around the budget, some other options were found around raising revenue, and I'm glad to support what the council did on that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ruby Parada, and I am a founding member of the DC Trans Coalition. Under the previous administration, we really struggled to work with the many different agencies like the Department of Corrections and the Office of Human Rights. In the last 6 years, we have worked really hard to implement policies that will assure that the transgender residents of the District of Columbia are not victims of discrimination. And basically, we had a closed door policy, including in the Office of LGBT Affairs. Under your administration, what can you do to assure that we have a space at the table? Because really, we have worked really hard, and it seems like we're going backwards.
Well, I hope you don't feel like you've gone backwards under my administration. If you do feel that way, I'd like to know, concretely in what ways, because we'll work to change that. I want the transgender community to feel welcome, accepted in what we do in the city. And I've tried to demonstrate that with my own behavior. I think Jeff knows how I feel about the transgender community, and if there's some concrete things that you can cite that we need to address, please get them to him, and we'll work to address them immediately.
Do we have more access to you, Director?
Well, yeah, I could sit here and say I'll meet with everybody, but that's not realistic. If you've got access to Jeff, you have access to me. And that's because I have selected somebody who I believe is an outstanding selection to run this office. He was my first and only choice, and I didn't know what I was going to do if he said no, to tell you the truth, but he didn't. And I think Jeff will tell you himself that he and Steve have constant access to me. And frankly, it helps that I knew Jeff before he came to this job. It wasn't like I had to develop a relationship with Jeff. I worked with Jeff in a lot of different ways, so this was simply an extension of an existing relationship. And that's the kind of person that I wanted to have in that job, somebody who I was comfortable with, familiar with, and I knew represented the views that I represent. Do you know Jeff?
Yes.
Okay.
He was at one of our meetings.
Okay, I was that's Jeff Richardson.
So far, we have a great start, so thank
Okay.
you.
All right.